You know, there are people that don't know you, mate. Yeah. Bollocks.
Welcome back, Shindiggers. This is the Shindig podcast, where we get under the skin of the UK trials community. My name is Tom Hutley.
And I'm Matt Pengelly.
And today we are interviewing Mr. Salt Rock himself. It is, of course, Andrei Burton.
Mr. Andrei Burton.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello, mate. Hello, mate. Good. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, by the way. Yeah, really appreciate it. Quite excited. I've watched the first two podcasts you put out, and I have to say I think they were really good, really entertaining. Like you say, great to listen to when you're driving along and that kind of thing. So yeah, awesome so far. Steve's one was hilarious.
Yeah, I know you came up in that one a couple of times as well, so I thought that you might have remembered that because I know you guys have been riding for quite a long time.
Oh mate, yeah. Like I think, how long did he say he's been riding for? 18 years or something.
Yeah, I don't even know if we've picked it.
Yeah, it's got to be about that. Yeah.
So 2020 is my 20th year.
Whoa!
I've been riding longer.
2020, as in this year. So it's 20 years for you now.
Yeah, I mean Kenny's coming up for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he will have been riding for 30 years next year, or no, this year maybe. Maybe actually this is his 30th year. I think he started in 1990.
Longer than we've been alive, mate. That's insane.
Man,
So what does that look like for you?
Charlie Rolls is like what? I don't know, 12 years old. So I've been riding nearly twice as long. It's great. He wasn't.
Yeah,
that
is mental, mate.
So what does that look like for you then? When you started riding, obviously trials bikes aren't what they've evolved to now. What did you start on? How did you start then, I suppose?
So like I've got a bit of a classic story. Bella, right, sorry about Bella. This is everyone at home, everyone listening.
If you watch on the video, Trey's got a wonderful little sausage dog that's desperately trying to hump him right now.
She loves it so much. She's just trying to shag me. Go away.
You can find that sausage dog on Instagram. She's got an Instagram page.
Bella Dot the Sausage. Go follow.
Bitches be crazy for Andrei.
Bitches of all kinds. I just can't stay away from it.
Yeah, back to it. You were talking about your first bike story sort of thing.
Yeah. So I started riding bikes, like not trials at all. Didn't even know it existed. I just started riding to school. And used it as a way, to be honest, of having a bit of freedom as a kid, as like sort of 10, 12, that sort of age. And then when I was 13, I was riding home from school in Exeter and saw some guys riding on the cathedral in Exeter. They were like jumping up these little stairs, and we're talking stairs like they're barely steps. They're like 2 inches. I saw these guys like hopping on their back wheels like down and trying to go back up them, and I was just like blown away. Like, what the hell is this? Like, you guys are magicians. And it was the first time I'd seen a sport that I didn't understand. So like when I saw BMX, and I was already riding a bit of cross country and off road and stuff.
Yeah.
It makes sense, like your wheels are rolling. A BMX, your wheels are rolling, you hit a ramp, it pushes you in the air, and everything else, just even gymnastics and stuff, it all just sort of like made sense, the movement. And then when I saw trials, it just blew my mind. Like, how do you get the bike to jump forwards on the back wheel? How do you get the balance and control to be able to be so accurate on these edges and just going up to the edge of drops and stuff? And like, these guys were literally dropping off 2-foot walls. I mean, like knee-height walls,
and you were just like, wow.
Yeah, I was blown away by it, mate. I was absolutely blown away.
So, I'm still blown away by stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like watching Tom ride, really. So yeah, I just kind of got hooked. Like they basically were like, yeah, just come and ride with us. It doesn't matter what you're riding. I was just riding on like white lines on the floor, trying to track stand and stuff. Got to know them. And then rode with them like every day, every night after school, and just got like obsessed. But I had a normal mountain bike. So I started off on a really terrible mountain bike. and I probably had that for the first year or 2 years of riding. So we're talking like I took off the big chain ring and put on a 32 tooth bash guard. And I had like really crap V brakes, like they were useless.
Oh wow!
And yeah, that's just how I
See,
started.
we all start there.
Yeah.
See, I knew I started with the
Saracen X-ray, and the amount of back axles you go through when you're learning the back up. And
my first was the De Bomb, I think, and everyone has a seat, right? Almost everyone I know, their first trials bike has a seat.
Because the first trials bike I saw still had a seat, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, yours was a freaking mountain bike, Andre. That's why he was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to go to the gym. Like,
I had like a steel frame that was too big for me anyway. Like the cheap. Think of the cheapest wheels you could get, and I had the ones just below that. I mean, it was terrible. But I didn't cut. Well, it was all I could really get, at the time. So that was that. I just started on that, and I didn't even. The first time I saw a proper trials bike actually was when my mate, we're still really good friends now. I was best man at his wedding actually, Tim Wills. He got a 20-inch, and we'd only seen little clips on the internet because I'm old, man. The internet wasn't really a thing back then.
You couldn't find videos on the internet back then. People take, now if you're new coming into this, maybe Charlie Rolls' age or whatever, YouTube is a thing, but 15 years ago, there was no centralized place to get videos.
Well, we were all like, before YouTube, I just remember searching through Vimeo. I was using Vimeo before YouTube, and that was like our platform for trials. Because back then, I think in those times, the quality was better, and we were obviously some kind of camera snobs. But
yeah, you get HD uploads there. You couldn't do that on YouTube. But when stuff like this, you couldn't ever Google and find out what this sport was. So that's what was so magic. I
had like 5-second clips of like Op P doing a side up on a 20-inch, and it was literally like a 5-second clip of him just doing a side up from 2 wheels, and I'd watch it 200 times and be like, I've got to learn like how to do this. So I started by side up. I didn't even realize you could side up from back wheel for like the first year I was riding, and then Tim ended up getting this like 20-inch Monty that his dad bought him, and like it turned up, and I was just like, this is absolutely mind blowing. And then actually, I went and watched Martin Ashton and Martin Hawes at a show, and then that just fueled my desire. I was like,
that's how it worked for me too. Exactly the same. I didn't know anything about trials. I watched Martin Ashton in Plymouth. Must have been about 13 years old. Being like, wow, I want to do that stuff. And then 6 years later, mate, 6 years later from that year, I was doing a show with Martin Ashton with you on the other side of the barriers riding our bikes. So that's my kind of claim to understand that that's exactly the same process for me. I was just inspired by a show, which is sort of like what you do now, have been doing.
Yeah, I think that's why I think that's why I ended up going into shows, but also like the way that I do shows and how I do shows. Like at the time they were doing the big MB UK tour and to go into like big events, but I kind of saw it as a different thing. And I was like, well, the reason I got inspired is because I saw a show, and it wasn't where it was. I actually went to Bournemouth, and it was like the furthest I'd been in my life at that point, and I remember being like, it was a huge deal, mate. It was a huge deal back then. Bournemouth, like now it's down the frigging road as far as I'm concerned. But so I wanted to take shows into schools because, then you can show everybody that's at the point in their lives when they want to get into a sport and they're looking for direction and they're basically bored at school like I was, and they want something exciting. So taking in a trial show and being like, guys, you should, have a go at this or find a sport you really enjoy, and somehow you'll find a way of making it your life and having a great fun career out of it. So it's been really I feel really privileged that I've had 16 years now of being professionally riding, and it all started basically doing shows in schools.
And it's one of those things. It's very few riders are able to do that. I know that most of us, even we know them personally. Any rider that does that full time, you're going to know who they are or work with them or have worked with them beforehand. But what I think is important, that I've always noticed, that people sometimes go to a show And it isn't the sort of thing where we go and ride to show off. I don't see it as that. It's like when you actually go watch a show, listen, and get involved, it's more of like an awareness. We're like, hey guys, this is what we do. This is what you can do. We want to make you aware that it's kind of out there, rather than just go, hey, look at what I can do. It's like, look at what you could be doing, what we got into, which is something I think you've always done quite well, to engage that. Whereas I know some shows is just a sit down watch, but I think that's what always made it quite a successful thing, like you say, for the kids, because the kids aren't there just to passively watch it. They're just kind of be inspired.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you raised there. Like I never wanted to, I never wanted to be the same show as everyone else. You know, like there was the Mad Team and Martin Ashton and people like that doing shows. And that for me, that was great, but I wanted to be a little bit different and do my own thing. And my spin on it was that, you know, it's not just like sit there and watch and I'm going to show you something that you can't do. And then people will go, that was amazing. Like you go and watch Cirque du Soleil, 99% of people that watch Cirque du Soleil don't ever think I could do that. And it's great because you go and watch it. It's a great show and you walk away. You're like, they were amazing. That's it. But for me, I want people to watch my shows and be like, that was really cool. I want to do it, and I can see how I can get there. So I'm not just, you know, like there's loads of things that you could go and do as a sort of top level trials rider, if you like, that you could go and do in a show, and people would be like, that was amazing. And I know that nobody's ever going to think about trying to get into trials. But if you go and show them like, this is where I started, and then this is like what you can achieve, then it's like more accessible, and
they can relate to it more, can't they?
Yeah. They're drawn to it. Then, you know, they can see a way, so they're going to go home, and you're like, yeah, you can do these moves on any bike. So you can just go and get on your bike at home, any bike, and just try and track stand, and like that. People need to see that's the basics. Whereas if you're just on top of a van, like 3 meters in the air, balancing on a like tiny table, people don't see that as achievable. And that's everyone else. I think like we're going back like 10, 15 years. Everyone was just doing that in the show. Whereas I always tried to show people the progression and be like, from this to this, and show that kind of like, you know, get into it basically.
We're always good at, you know, building up to the impressive moves as part of a show. I'll never forget, just something that just reminded me, doing a show in Plymouth. This must have been, I don't know, 8-10 years ago now, for early days. And you're going to me and James. It's like mine and James, one of our first shows, and he's like, oh yeah, just start small and go to this. And then James, you're like, oh, and this is James Davies. He's on a 20-inch bike. He's going to come out and show you a move. And then he does the biggest side up in the whole of the rig on the first move.
He did like the biggest thing you could do straight away. And I was like, well, where are you going to go now then, James?
But that kind of
early, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Just being into shows, you do the really small stuff, and sort of the crowd have been like, oh, cool, I can probably do that. Yeah. I'll go home and track stand like you were saying, Dave. Yeah. So it's one thing that I've always found hilarious. It's if people cannot relate to anything like that because their brain doesn't comprehend. So
no, you can't. And now the bikes look mental as well. So I think it's even if you just go out and do a cold show. Like I mean, last year the shows that we did in China, the show tour I did, or the shows in Electron I was doing in Macau, they were very much like that. They're just a show. It's basically a Cirque du Soleil show, and it's great. But people aren't going to get, you know, and especially on these bikes, they just look at them and they're like, oh, they're crazy. They're so far away from normal bikes. So it kind of puts the emphasis on showing the basics that you can do on a normal bike even more, like makes it even more important to me anyway.
What I want to remark on as well, I think I didn't really realise this until I've obviously got to know you, and what you're saying about in terms of accessibility is that you started round about age, 14 was it? You said 13, 14, which when you think...
I was about 13, 14,
yeah, and when you look at a lot of world champions, a lot of people think, well, that's good. They've been doing it since the age of 2 or the age of whenever. But you're riding at a world level, but you didn't have that. I mean, do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
No, that's it's another interesting point. So I did start much later. And that's probably because I don't know my dad. I didn't really grow up with him, so I didn't really have that kind of. I think most of it is generally, if you look at people that are good, not generally. If you look at people that are good, pretty much every rider I know in the entire world, there's a male influence, and their dad's into motorbikes, into motorbike trials, or into bike trials, or mountain bikes, or whatever, and they've kind of like helped them and pushed them into it. And I'm definitely not in that category. I haven't had any help from him at all.
we proved them wrong, Andrei, mate. Mate, I'm with you on that. We proved them wrong, mate. We proved them wrong.
Exactly. You know, like it's great because he shows me how I don't want to be. But it's kind of like I started much later, and everything was completely self-funded. Like I started a day job, or I started a weekend job as a gardener when I was like 13 years old, so that I could save up to buy a Hope rear hub, you know. And then it just carried on. It was like the only way I could afford to get bikes was to work every Saturday and Sunday. So I'd go to work. I'd work 8-10 hours every Saturday and Sunday, and I'd ride on my lunch break in like that 1 hour, and I'd like go down to the rocks and ride in Torquay, and then go back and carry on working afternoon, because it's the only way I could save up to buy a bike, and then take the occasional weekend off to go to a competition and spend all my money on like the fuel to get there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't afford like the bikes. I couldn't afford the travel. You know, everything I had went into riding trials. Whereas now, I think looking at most people, they come from a very different background. And I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing, but they come from a very different background where you see like a 5-year-old kid riding around a £3,000 carbon perfect bike. And you know, and it's a completely different box of frogs. You know, I didn't have that kind of influence in the background of my
no, you just wanted to get on the bike and get on with it.
Yeah, man.
I know from about you left at 16 and then hit trials full time. Then didn't you?
Sorry.
So I was saying, sorry, you left home at like 16, was it? And that was when you really started doing trials like every day, all the time. Like drinking Magura Royal Blood, and
that did happen one time actually. Yeah, I accidentally, you know, when you bleed your brakes with water, and like you've bled the oil out, and then you put it into like the only thing I could find was a cup, you know, and I'm bleeding it into a cup, and then I remember just, I don't know, like an hour later or something, just picking up this cup and just drinking out of it. And it was just friggin' oil. And that stuff tastes horrible.
And well, I've got a bunch of questions from some of our known riders. Some of the people that asked some questions here, I haven't written down who asked them, but there's a famous one from Mr. Sean Goddard. Dre.
Yeah, I already said I'll be the little announcer for this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, no.
What's that?
Let's see what he asked first. Let's just see what Sean.
The question isn't guess what Sean Goddard said. It's, you know, I'm going to ask you the question.
Right? Yeah.
So, who's better, you or Carthy? As in Jack Carthy.
Oh, quite clearly me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I actually said that you wouldn't say that, so I don't know you as well as I thought.
It depends what you're talking about. If you're talking like in terms of with the ladies, it's basically me. But if you're talking,
yeah, who's better? Oh, we didn't clarify that.
Exactly. Jack is a phenomenal rider, and he's become a really good mate as well. And he's really impressive because. So going back to the other thing of like riding when I was younger, when I left home when I was 16, I kind of basically cut off from everybody in that life because I knew that I didn't want that lifestyle of like drinking and getting into the wrong things. So I left home and moved far away and basically changed my phone number and just cut everyone off straight away. So I didn't actually really have anyone to ride with after that. And so I didn't really ride with anyone for a long time until me and like Joe Seddon started riding with me. And then I always kind of felt like I didn't achieve my best potential that I could have done in riding because I didn't have anybody to train with. And then Jack Carthy came on the scene and basically proved my thoughts completely wrong because he grew up, and it's still now. He rides most of the time by himself.
Yeah.
Then high level riders to push him. There's nobody. I mean, there isn't really anyone in the world that can push him, but especially not in the UK. There's nobody that can push him at all. And he's just kind of like he just pushed the boundaries so far. It's insane. And I massively respect him for doing that. Like, really do.
Well, you know from first-hand experience on how difficult to getting that level is.
Yeah, I mean, I climbed to like top 5 in the world. I've been on my highest ranking in the world in full elite. So I was never a junior rider in the UCI. So, I've been 4th in the world in elite, and I was kind of like, finally, I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I had too many injuries and everything, but Jack Jack doesn't look at anything else but number 1. He's like, I'd rather be last than like 2nd or 3rd.
Also, I've been doing some digging, mate. Just going to put something on the screen here.
This wouldn't be a shindig without a dig. This is amazing how we've evolved the show.
So I just want you to tell me a little bit.
All right. That is massively embarrassing photo. Wow.
Oh my God. Well, that was a major success there. Dre, can you talk us through what is this picture, mate? What's going on? You've got makeup on, you've got your beard in a little chin tail, which I couldn't find. I know there's a better one than this that you own.
There's a really good one, which I'm glad you didn't find.
I couldn't find it. I'll be honest. I did a lot. I can't believe how much I spent looking through pictures of Andrei Burton, and believe it or not,
mate, that's just another you, isn't it?
Before 2007 or 8, he was wearing shirts. I've got other ones, mate. That's just one. But talk us through this one a little bit, Dre.
I don't know what there is to talk through.
Why, for starters, if you're on audio,
basically, I've got to explain this for the people
sorry.
Cars listen to this. So you look like some sort of gothic pirate, but not. Yeah, but like in school uniform pirate. You see what I'm saying there? Like he's wearing a white collared shirt, which doesn't look beaten up to be a pirate enough. An eye patch that's not on the eye. A skull. One of them.
Is that that's a real earring, isn't it? You've got your ear pierced. I know you did have it pierced, didn't you?
No. Did I? Bollocks.
Eyeshadow. But the hallmark of this photo is this. It's knotted. What is it even called? Like the beard with the
chin tail.
Chin tail. Should we go?
Calling it a chin tail.
I'd grow it back if Chloe would let me.
This will be on the Instagram if you want to have a look at this photo.
Yeah, so if you can't see it and you want to see it, we will be posting this on the Instagram. So if you're listening to this right now, head over to our Instagram page and you can see that amazing photo of Andrei Burton there at his best.
I was very, very drunk as always, and that's all I've got for that.
Okay, actually, just for another bit of juiciness, I've got one more, mate. I've just got one more that I actually really like the look of here.
I'm sweating. I'm quite nervous what you found.
So for those that can't see this one, he's got quite the goatee on the bottom here, like proper a monobrow. It looks definitely like a big monobrow, and he is definitely that is not. What is going on there, Dre? Like that looks like Craig Taylor on the left, but it's not.
Jim as well. It's quite amazing remarks. Dre is a shadow of his former self by the looks.
Can you see look how big his t-shirt holes are? His arms.
T-shirt not filling out the t-shirt.
Filling out the t-shirt.
So is it?
Have you noticed the t-shirt? That's Nick Goddard. That's I think it was Nick Goddard that designed the individual clothing, and that was one of his t-shirt designs. That's a trials rider manual in it.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
We're trying to work out with it. Rock one.
If any of you oldies out there, old riders know that t-shirt, or maybe get us a copy of it, that would be amazing. But yeah, it's a proper old school image there of Dre with probably even I look more muscular than him right now, like in that picture. That is saying something, isn't it?
Calm down.
You 28-year-old self comparing yourself with like, how old is he in this photo?
How old do you think? Well, I think if I go back, this photo is 2009, Dre, or 2008.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say in my defence about that.
Nothing, mate. I'm just going to stop sharing it. There's nothing you can do. This is. Yeah. We really should have gone in going, hi, and welcome to the roasting of Andrei Burton.
This is it. It's literally
mate, there was never going to be a real. You're already painted in an amazing light, so it's about time we poke some needle holes in your ego there. Speaking of which, I'm going to quickly move on to something that I think everyone notices. You are often. What's the word? You're often broken. Your body doesn't work. Nothing quite. Was there ever a time? Do you remember when you were fit? Do you remember a time when you were actually okay?
No bandages, holding arms together.
No excuses. Like, oh yeah, I felt really bad this morning, and then he puts a video of 57-inch side up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think actually. Like, I think no, I can't remember that far back.
This is what I find hilarious. There's like
because at the moment, like I've taken this week off of like not just riding but any kind of training. So no climbing, no gym, no like nothing. Just because I've got like I've got a torn labrum in my shoulder which I'm trying to let heal. I've got I've pulled like my rotator cuff. My back has just been in pieces. Like my right arm's been terrible. I've had really bad tendonitis in my arm. Like. So,
you've been a rough man.
God, yeah. Sorry, Bella's still just humping the hell out of me. Stop going Go away. Stop it. Get enough of that.
I did a little bit of research actually, Dre. You can buy new ligaments on the black market.
No way. Like from real people.
Not as expensive as you think.
What's it for? I think it was $4,800 per ligament.
That was dollars as well, wasn't it?
It was dollars as well. Yeah. So, and I did find that you can sell your kidneys now for $134,000.
Right. What's up?
Sell your kidney and just have a big stock of ligaments. I feel like that's the thing you're going to use way more.
The link. That's amazing.
So they are there, they are available, mate, and I definitely think it's definitely your type of market eventually. It's like all this insane riding and training actually.
I think the problem is that I don't really know how to rest very well, and it's like especially through my 20s, like I'd be like, oh, it's bit like my last rest day would have been 3 or 4 months, ago, and like a rest day in the last few years has been like, oh, I flew from like Hong Kong to England, so that's like a day off. But actually, like that kind of travel is pretty tiring in itself. And then the next day, I expect to be able to go and ride and, like you say, side up 57 inches or something. I'll be like, why can't I do it? And it's just because I'm basically knackered all the time.
But if you're always like riding with yourself, competing with yourself, how do you manage to stay motivated? What is the goal that just keeps you going? How are you?
Do you know what? Up until I reckon 2-3 years ago, I never had a problem with motivation ever in any sense. I'll just be like, nah, I want to go riding all the time.
Just constantly driven, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was just I love being outdoors. I love being like on the rocks and riding, and just if it's sunny, I'm just like not even if it's not even sunny, like I just want to be out and doing stuff, but. The last few years, I've found it a bit harder, definitely, with motivation. And I'll tell you why. There was a big thing that changed, and that was competitions and almost like people's attitudes. And I think because I reached a certain level, and I kind of constantly wanted to be at that level, and then with injuries, and then with the commitment of working with Ninja Warrior, that I was training more and more for Ninja Warrior and being that kind of athlete as opposed to just a trials rider. And I kind of got a bit disheartened. I turn up to events, like the way they'd set up sections, and I started with London as well, with Ride London, and building my own competition under my own rules, my own thoughts and ideas of how sections and trials should be done. And then I'd go back to a World Cup, and I'm like, you guys have put no effort in. You've just chucked in a load of concrete in any fashion, thrown in a load of markers, and gone, yeah, that's great. And it's just walking around an event that, you know, you train for months or years or like decades even, and then you turn up and all it is like a couple of pallets with a ratchet strap over it. And you're like, well, I've got that in my warehouse. You know, I want to go to these events. I want people that are watching the events to think they look amazing. I want the riders to think this was the most fun I've ever had, like riding an event, which I had in London. Every single rider came up to me and was like, that is so much fun. Great section, good level, great crowd, all that kind of thing. And it sort of like let me down. Berlin, back in, I think it was 2018, was it? That Hannes and everybody in Germany ran the Berlin World Cup. And that for me was like a huge load of enthusiasm. And I got there, I was really excited. The event looked amazing. They put on so much effort. And you could tell that they'd put the effort in to think about everything. It was like so much work. And I really appreciated that. And it showed in my riding because I was 1 point out of the finals. You know, I was 7th place. And it's because I was excited by what they'd built and the effort they put into it. And then you go to like other World Cups where they just, and I know that it's really hard work, and I know that from first-hand experience to build these events. But yeah, just putting down some concrete pipes and putting a few ratchet straps around, and it doesn't get me excited to ride. I need more. So now, the last couple years, I've actually kind of not really given a toss about the results, and I've started to ride because I just want to ride, and I want to ride how I ride, what I want to ride, as opposed to being like, oh, I need to train this technique or be like that, or, you know, if he's done it, I have to be able to do it. It's more like, that's cool. I like that he's done that, but I just want to ride. If I want to ride big side ups, mate, I'm just going to ride big side ups. You know, like we've been out street rides this year, and I've probably had the most amount of fun this year, almost thanks to COVID, because I've actually been in England and going out riding with everyone. It's just awesome. It's like, and it doesn't matter if he's like hopping up a curb or they're doing some massive drop gap. Like it's all just fun. And it's kind of like pushed a lot of enthusiasm to ride again back into me, which has been really nice.
Getting everyone out there to get shindigs, mate. That's what it's all about, getting those shindigs. Because from experience, I've certainly learned that some of the most successful and most enjoyable competitions have been organised by real riders.
Yeah.
Look at the ones that you've done. Look at the ones that Charlie recently did at the Bike Academy. And it's that we realized that this community, this whole kind of industry is just driven by the riders, really. And that's how I've sort of seen it in that light. And then if you take it too seriously, you have to look back at why did you even start riding trials to begin with? Because we freaking love it. We do it for fun. And I know, like, moving into that whole motivational thing, like, you're just another human being like all of us. It doesn't matter how good you are. Like you said, you've still struggled with some motivation. I know you personally, and we all have those things that still hold us back. That when you get, want us to get out there and really push ourselves.
Yeah, I think what you're saying about like enjoying it is a big thing. Like the competitions, like they sort of became for me the last few years just not as enjoyable. Like the atmosphere, especially in the UK. So I didn't ride in the UK actually for 10 years. I didn't ride the British Championships.
Yeah, because
of political, personal, ridiculous things behind the scenes. And then when the few competitions that I then had to go to qualify to compete at the World Championships, there was no atmosphere, and for me, like, why would I drive 6 hours to get up north to ride in an event where there's no atmosphere? And like, when you ride a section, you finish a section, I don't care if it's like a 5-year-old kid that's like just gone through white route or green route or whatever, or if it's Charlie Rolls, like, people should be like cheering and clapping and having fun, and like that rider should be like, yeah, that was really good,
yeah.
Even if like the first 2 laps they didn't make that like 2 stack of pallets, and then the third lap they make it, they should be like excited by that. And I'll be honest, there was like, for a good few years, there was none of that in any of the events I went to, not just in England but even internationally.
We've done that well as a British riding group, though. Have you noticed how times that we've gone abroad, like myself, and you go to these big trial meets? I'll use Cologne, Germany trip from years ago as a good example.
Yeah.
Like, the British riders are here. the fun's about to begin because we're loud. We're like, someone does a 2-inch side up, and we're like, yeah,
exactly.
And I think we've done really well at that, and I've certainly got that from you. When we first met, I never would have thought I was doing small things, and you were like this world-class rider going, yeah, it's great, man. I'm like, this guy, wow, okay, maybe, yeah,
Yeah, but I think that's why, like, I find bouldering and climbing like very similar to trials, but it's kind of got slightly better community idea in that sense. Because when you go climbing, whether I'm trying like a V8, V9, like really hard route, or there's somebody, like I can be climbing with somebody that's right next to me, climbing on the same bit of wall, that's trying like a V0 or a V1, and they might try it 3 or 4 times and get it. I might try it 3 or 4 times and get it. It doesn't matter. You're like on a level playing field. You're just there having fun. It's movement. You're keeping fit, and then you're doing something that you didn't do before. And you should enjoy that. And like everybody should be like, yeah, well, there's a massive cheer when somebody does something. And that's what we get as street riders. And like you're saying, that's what we would take into like the events like Cologne and stuff. And that's what trials back in the day when Martin Ashton and Martin Hawes were riding. My first comps, I remember, I think it was like Martin Ashton literally threw a banana skin at Martin Hawes in the middle of a section, and they were just having fun, and they were taking it sort of seriously.
You do that now, they go mental.
Then like cut to like, I don't know, 10 years later, like 2010 to 2015 or whatever, and it's like everyone's so serious. There's 12-year-old kids walking around with like their serious face on, going like all in their like head to toe like serious gear.
Power Ranger suit, that's what we call it.
Power
Ranger suits. Yeah. It's one thing you've never quite went that far, Dre. So I'll respect you for that.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, at least occasionally I wear lycra, but it's to keep me warm.
Well, speaking of riding clothing, do you own another pair of Salt Rock shorts other than those board ones with the orange top and pictures? Do you have any? Are they your only pair of board shorts?
Do you know what? I've got like 20 pairs, and I just don't like them. And
I knew it. It's just
when you're like, I'm comfortable in these. I can stretch. They look nice. I'll just wear them. And then I get a few pairs. Obviously, I'm a sponsor, so I get a few pairs. And then and then when I finally lose the last pair, I'm like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And meanwhile, I've got 20 pairs of other shorts that would be perfectly fine.
Just to clarify, Dre has a few pairs of the same design of shorts. Just to clarify, I think that's what was funny. I knew that, but loads of other. That was actually from Adrian. He asked this question, and he said, "Can you ask Dre if he owns more than one pair of shorts?"
Yeah. I've got like a massive drawer full of shorts, and I pretty much just take out the same design every time. And also, like, because of all the stuff I do, I'm pretty careless and useless, so I generally rip them and break them pretty quickly.
You riding for Salt Rock in terms of a clothing backing and sponsor. We also see, if you want to see Dre trying to be a model, head over to the Salt Rock Instagram and you can see him posing away quite seriously. I went
to the website the other day and I didn't realise quite how many pictures they've used.
Mate, there's loads. They've definitely used you quite well. Here's another question circulating around the community, mate. Who are you actually riding for at the moment? I know we've had this discussion, but let's try and get this more. This will be an official. Who are you actually riding for? Who are you not riding for? Where are you right now in terms of support?
Because sponsors might be listening to this. So they might be like, oh, we can see
it.
Yeah. So good point, Tom. Nice one. See what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Got my back. So I don't know how to answer that even.
I know. Well, we don't have to.
Okay, so I'll explain. I changed from Echo to Maestro just purely because I wanted to try out a carbon frame. The only thing is, with the Maestro, my hesitation over moving to them was the geometry isn't really how I ride. It's basically a big 20-inch, and it is such an awesome bike. I haven't even broken a frame actually. I didn't even break a pair of forks. Like my first set of forks are still going. So I basically rode it for the year, and they still want me to ride their bikes. I've still got all three actually, but I just wanted to try different geometry, and with everything that happened with Echo, we're still really good friends, but they basically changed the factory, and so and Christian from Krukers is just super good dude, and he was like, if you ever want a bike, Andrei, just drop me a message. So I dropped him a message instead.
Of course, I mean, if I owned it, you want that
bike, and he was like, yeah, cool, I'll send it tomorrow. I was like, oh, okay, right. And he's like, what size do you want? I was like, okay, medium. And then I just wanted to see what the bike was like, and I like the geometry. They're both incredible bikes. I can actually, if I'm honest, go slightly bigger on the Maestro. Like on most things, I can go slightly bigger. But in terms of like how I ride, the Krukers is better geometry. But hands down, the best bike I've ever ridden is probably the Echo I had. My black Echo, my original prototype, my signature frame with from Echo was. I could just ride that so well. I mean, like, yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I always preferred you on that bike personally. That's where I seen your style kind of was really there, because I'm watching other people ride Krukers. Everyone has their own unique style, but there's a level of where it comes together where you look similar when you ride Krukers bikes. But I must say, on your back on your Echo days was that very stylish. And
I found like, so I mean, I've got my right elbow's been destroyed over the last like 5-6 years from all the Ninja Warrior and climbing and riding especially. So there's a burglar in the back of your house, by the way.
Right, so it's only Simeon, you know.
TV in the background. But no, I yeah, so because of that, I can't actually extend my right arm. So in every photo you'll see where I'm extending, I can't straighten my arms. So that one goes straight and my right one doesn't. So with a lot of moves, I struggle with full extension basically when I try and push. So I need a slightly shorter frame and a shorter reach. So I need to be able to do all techniques, I kind of need a slightly different geometry, I think. So with the Echo that they built me for my last frame, it was slightly shorter, steep head angle, and I just found I could do like every single technique. Like you could static hook, I could gap to back wheel really well, I could pedal up to back wheel, I could Frenchy, I could like bounce the front, I could like side up really well. Like it just fitted me for like every kind of movement. I could do really nicely on it. Whereas like for me on a Maestro, like pedaling up to front, I could go massive, and side ups I could go big, but gapping back wheel to back wheel, like I just couldn't gap the same, and I couldn't move the same. Static hooks were like almost impossible because my arm, it doesn't straighten and it doesn't bend. So I can't. I mean, it's better now. I've had an operation, but last year it was like
surgery, didn't you? Yeah.
So the static hooks, I can't even get my chest to the handlebar, like nowhere near. So with the Echo, because it had a low front end, it made it easier. And then I got on the Maestro and I was like, I have to have a high front end because it's such a high bottom bracket. It puts me further back, but I can't lean forwards because my arm doesn't bend. So I ended up in this like annoying situation.
You can't have it all, can you? Each bike's better for each bit, and it's how I think they've got the geometry got so extreme that you're like, oh, that bike's going to be mint for that, or that bike's going to be mint for that, you know?
Yeah. And I think with people that have been in the sport for a few years and they're like, oh, should I get this bike or that bike? You should think about what you want to do on the bike and how you ride to what bike you get as well. It's not just as simple as like, oh, Charlie rides really well on that bike, I'm going to get that bike. Having said that, a lot of people that get Krukers do seem to ride it super well.
I was
they listened to Jack Carthy and he said like, I want this geometry, and he's ridden it and it's proven, and it like he's the extension, like the limit of it, but he's kind of tested that geometry and said this is perfect, and you can pretty much, it's not that dissimilar to my Echo actually, so you can ride every technique on it, which is what's really nice. And so but I think if I want to go big and just go out and do like some massive side ups and stuff, my Maestro, to be fair, is probably the one that you want to go for. But if I want to ride like slightly more balancy and like short run-ups and technical stuff, I'd probably have a better result, even though it's like a kilo heavier. I'd probably have a better result in a competition on the Krukas.
Better all-rounder. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and anyway, sorry. In answer to your original question of like, who am I riding for? Yeah, I'm kind of riding for both of them at the moment. There's no competition, so I don't really ride for anyone, and like they're both pretty cool companies. Everybody in the trials world, there's actually quite a lot of communication between not all companies, but quite a lot of them. So they all get on really well, and everyone just wants trials to be a better sport in that sense. So that's super cool. Like I love that. I love that they're fine with it.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, I don't know if you've got any new for next year, any other competitions coming up planned, but to people that don't know, Dre's been organising competitions for this community since 2005, I think it was.
I think 05, 06, I did that.
05, there was one done, I won't go into it too much, but did a little bit of digging on your trials forum, Dre.
Oh, God.
No. Well, your name was Dr. Dre, right?
You're safe, really. Like, there's
was your name?
Have an account on trials forum?
Yeah, you were called Dr. Dre, weren't you?
Do you know what? I think I actually only set it up because of that indoor trial.
Yeah, which makes sense because so you joined, I'm just reading it now. You joined December 19th, 2006.
Is your life?
Then, what was the last comment? So you made your first comment.
You've only made 6.
You only made 6 posts in, I think, 7 years. So it's one.
So he joined in 2000. Wait, did he say joined in 2005?
So he joined in 2006, and his first post was in March 2007.
So he was a lurker.
So to consume it, yeah. And your first comment is, "Hi Tony, I'm glad that you and Matt are telling people how it is and not twisting things. We know."
Sounds a bit aggressive.
BIU, and I'll be contacting the package coverage for a change. I'm really excited to finally get there, and it'll be fair for the committee. We can carry on the sport forward.
So his punctuation looks really, really good on it.
He had little capital. Considering someone that did so shit at school, his spelling was all right there. No, I'm just thinking, but point being, I think just to make people aware that you really have been pushing the sport from day one, mate. And I know from many of us, I'm just wanting to say, don't want to get too sober, but thank you, mate. I know without a lot of it, me meeting you 12 odd years ago, whatever it was now, and first doing shows with you and doing all that, that changed my direction in the sport. So I can only say thank you, mate. So I won't go too much into that. You've got enough ego as it is.
I mean, the thing is like there's a lot of going back a couple of years ago, there was some certain top riders that were kind of like, oh, this World Cup set up for such and such and blah blah blah, and you're like, yeah, but they've gone to the effort to make the event, so you kind of like can't hold it against them, that it might be slightly biased towards them, because if they're designing the event and building it, then it's always going to have a slight bias to the way that they work and run. And, well, anyway,
I think with any sport that
I think I managed to not do that in London, because I put in a lot of stuff that I was like, I really don't like that move. Let's put it in. I
know that for a fact. You were putting stuff in that you were like, I'm not even sure if I'm going to do that, but I know Rick will probably try it. And that was the level of it.
I was like, oh, we've got like Joachim Neiman, we've got Rick, we've got Sergio Longueras, we've got like, Jack Carthy.
Yeah.
I can put anything I want in because Jack's there, so it'll all get done. But yeah, I was like, I don't like that. It's not how I ride, but I know it's possible, and I wanted it to be a good level. But
well, I hope that in the future, maybe we can perhaps work towards that again. I know over the years you found that you put a lot in, and sometimes you don't get as much back. But I think we're really pushing the scene a little bit more, and hopefully we can talk about moving forward in next year and doing some events.
That's a good topic. I mean, what do you think the future for trials looks like? Where do you see it going, or what should be the direction?
it's difficult. I kind of think like, well, I've thought for a few years that it should go in a similar direction to motorbike trials, that there should be like the difference between the outdoors and the indoor trials, that kind of thing. I think them like basically using my rules from
I forgot to say, yeah.
I think doing that has been quite a good move for trials. But they just need to make it a little bit more. It needs to be a bit more fun. Like, it's not an Olympic sport. It's not.
There's no real prize money involved.
Gymnastics, like it's not like a rigid sport. It's just like it's a fun sport, and there is a competition side, a very much a strong competition side to the sport. But equally, it's all about people having fun, and the sport will die if people don't enjoy it. There's no reason for like a competition to be like super hard. It doesn't have to be, and especially not across like all levels. Like, yeah, the elite can be fairly hard, but the other ones, if you go to a competition and you finish on like max marks, like that's no fun, is it?
Well, there was something we spoke about in the competition rules that you just said there. Like, I definitely think it's moved forward. This is a kind of discipline, or sorry, what was I trying to say? The rules that you've used years before the nationals, when you wanted to change it up, and I think it works really well. We recently had a discussion about even the rules changing again. Can you see or give us an insight how you think what would be the progression in the competition ruling? How could they improve that, do you think?
How could they improve it?
Well, I'm trying to put words in your mouth here. When we last spoke, we were saying about, imagine if all the gates each gate had a certain amount of points, and it would be more enjoyable if those riders got to choose the gates, because then themselves.
So sorry,
I'm trying to put it in because we spoke about it, so I'm trying to get it from your side.
So basically, that's not totally my idea. I mean, it came from. So I don't know if any people listening have heard of the Cahors Urban Trial. So it's a big motorbike trial in France, and I've ridden there like I think the last 7 years or something. They invited me every year, and it's like, for me, it's the best event other than My Ride London. It is the best event of the year. It's so much fun, and it is more competition. So it's really simple rule system. I think Tarty Bikes actually tried to do an event similar to it. So you basically create one route, and there's like 3 or 4 gate options, each worth varying points for how difficult the move is, and then everybody just rides what they can ride. You're still entered into different categories, so like elite, expert, etc. Also, that's another thing. There should only be 3 categories, man. Beginners, people that ride a lot, and expert, and like pros. But anyway, then you can choose what you ride. So if a red rider thinks like, I can do that hardest gate, but the rest of them I can't do, then you've got the option of getting the 20 points for the hardest gate. And likewise, if an elite rider's like, I can't do all these elite, like all the elite gates, I can just do that one instead and get 10 points instead of 20 points. I think that should be an option as well. And then in theory, you'd end up, if you have a good ride, you'd end up never failing. No, not never failing anything, but failing much less, and everybody would have a score that would, like, and we've had it in Cahors, and it works really well, where you end up with a perfect spread of results, and everybody's had a good time because you've ridden what you can ride.
And it might help us ban the dab. We know how much you love a good dab, Andre.
Mate, I hate dabbing. And do you know what?
That hashtag too, though. So
yeah, like world championships have been won by people's abilities to put their foot down.
Well, this is it. That's why I thought these new rules may avoid that, because if that person goes, well, I have to go through this gate, I can't get through this, I'll just put my foot down. Like, there's no other option.
In France, we basically had like a riders agreement. Like Aurelian was like, none of us are going to dab, and we were like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, like an unofficial kind of bro code. Yeah, it's a bro code.
You remember we were in London when we did the when we did the last ride London, and I was like, you know, we just sit everyone down at the beginning at the rider's brief, and it's like, don't put your foot down. It's
Jay's like, no one's allowed to down. That's it. You're out. Like, and I say that. Ban the dab. Loud on the microphone. Ban the dab.
You can save yourself, but you know you don't want to go into something. Nobody wants to see somebody like just stop next to something and put their foot down and go. You know, like that's. You know, that's not
cool. Mate, it ground my gears years ago when I used to compete. It was the only thing I I absolutely hated it. But I think I was biased
for trying.
Sorry, mate, what you said?
You end up getting penalised for trying.
Yeah.
That's not right, is it?
I think I was drilled. It was you were the one that drilled competitions into me anyway and made me do them anyway. Like, you ride for Andrei Burton, you have to do competitions now. He was like, and also, don't you dare dab.
You have to ride competitions.
I've got my t-shirt on, you've got this on my bike, you don't dare put your foot down. So I always feel like that bullying helped me.
And don't get me wrong, I've like in World Cups, I made, you know, like 1 year I made every single final, and I pretty much made all the finals. Like I'll tell you, so you know I used to travel with Big Rick Kukuk a lot.
Yes.
And one year I did all the World Cups and tried everything. And some of it I had really good results, got like 4th, 5th, 6th, made finals, great. And then others I was way down the pack. And then the following year I was like, right, I'm going to ride every semi-final to get to the final. And I made every final. And it's because I put my foot down. Because that was
you heard it here, folks.
Safety net, mate. That was playing the game. The worst thing about it was you'd end up with like, sorry, just making a coffee in the background over there, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe. We know you know. Hi, Chloe. We miss you.
But yeah, you'd end up in this situation where like I'd be going around, I'd be getting close to the end of the semi-final, and you'd have like the French team or whatever. They'd be there with radios. And the other guys, the other riders wouldn't be riding the last couple of sections because they're waiting to see what I did in the last sections. And then they'd be like, okay, put your foot down, you know, 3 times and you can make the finals. You're like, that is not a fair competition. That's not fair. Like, that's terrible sportsmanship. Like, and that always used to happen for years until the likes of, and I'm going to give him credit for this again, Jack Carthy. Yeah. You know, he turned up and he was like, I'm just not going to put my foot down because I'm the best. And that was it. It was like, he didn't give a crap what anyone else was doing. He's going to do his own thing and he's going to clean everything. And, you know, massive respect to him for doing that. And Charlie's doing that as well now.
I'm just trying to think of other sports where that happens, where there's that tactical edge, but like it's so not tactical because it's anti to what the entire sport is about, which is getting
getting through it. And we're doing is I
can't think of any other sport that does that.
I know, like golf, you play as little as possible to be successful, which makes no sense. I suppose you're like like the aim of golf is to play as little golf as possible. I'm like, what? Why? No wonder it's an old man sport. So anyway.
You're right. Yeah, funny.
Mate, I think we're almost
covered it. Yeah,
time, mate. You know,
we could conversation. Yeah,
I know me and you can talk for hours, mate. Hours and hours.
Absolutely hours. Yeah. You haven't even asked me about like my main job.
Because again, this is what I'm saying. I know what you do outside to actually pay the bill. So why don't you find out? I know what you do.
What do you do for a job? Like, you know.
Okay, so yes, to people that don't know,
to pay for the heating in my house.
4 years. My main job's actually been Ninja Warrior. So yeah, I don't ride nearly as much as people think. And when they see me, like I'm in like a nice country and it's all sunny and I'm riding, that's literally like. Between testing all the obstacles, I'm like, I'm just going to run outside for 5 minutes, guys, and ride because I need to get out of the studio. So I'm in a studio for like, most of the time I do like 12, 15 hours a day when I'm on set. And I'm literally just doing the obstacles, like setting them, testing them, trying them again and again, making sure that we get the right level for each country. And yeah, That's what's also destroyed my body.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you've got a lot of those injuries that we were talking about earlier. From what you've told me, has actually been from Ninja Warrior, like losing skin off your arms and hands, and you're there. You're basically a dummy, man. You're basically a dummy tester, a dancing monkey. Andrei, go and do that. Andrei, go and do this.
Yeah, I'm literally that. Yeah. But what I think this is actually, I've thought about it, and I thought this is what World Cups needs. You need a rider that's good enough to compete in the finals, but can actually like test the sections and go like, yeah, that's a good level.
I wonder if someone does that for a job already, but not on a bike. That's a good idea, mate. I like that.
Yeah. Is it like there's we have 4 professional testers. There's like me and 3 other guys that go to each Ninja Warrior, and we make sure it's a good level for the contestants, because you want the contestants to enjoy it. You want a good number of people to get through. You want to create a good TV show, and it's got to be possible, like. And we're under pressure to like not fall. Like they'll be like, for instance, we just filmed France, and when it came to like the finals, I'd been there for, was it 17, 18 hours I'd been on set, and they were like, can you do, like the final pool, stage 3, like the hardest obstacle, and I'm like, I've got holes in my hands, I've got blood like pouring out of me. I was like, yeah, I can still do it, to prove to the audience, the cameras, and the contestants that everything is possible. And we're not creating an impossible course for them. And in World Cups, we don't really have that. We just have, most of the time, it's not even a rider. It's just somebody that's like going around going like, yeah, they can probably jump up this.
Yeah, and they don't want to hear you saying, oh, that can't be done. I know that you'll be going back to them going like, this makes this incredibly difficult. Maybe you should do this to change that. Yeah. So
I think that's really important
now, because you've got Jack Carthy, and Nicholas Valle and all these other riders that are just insane.
Well, I think that's really important in any sport. Where you get true progression is when it's the perfect balance of challenging and enjoyable. It can't be too easy that you think, oh, I'm not going to do that, but then it can't be too difficult that then you think, I've got no chance.
You're not going to get that buzz.
It's that sweet spot in between. And anything in life where you have good progression or you get that flow state is when you have that in between level.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, and that and from an organizer point of view, I know that's really hard. Like that is so difficult to get. I mean, you can, like me and Owen went round the last Ride London we did. Like me and Owen went round and spent so long looking at every move. Like, is it too hard? Is it too easy? Like every single.
I think it's the longest setup.
Yeah, and I don't think. I don't think most people or organisers I haven't really seen do that. They kind of look at it and go like, yeah, that's okay. I mean, I design everything in 3D first. Everything's like designed offset. I design it in 3D. We look at it, I measure everything, and then when we're on site, it's like tweaking everything to make sure it's right. But
well, who knows, mate? We'll have some more shows and comps in the New Year, summer. I've got some ideas and things I want to bring. So when we have our annual meeting of for the year, I'm sure we'll have something in the works for all the rest of the riders.
I think. Do you know what? Funny, like I know I said it earlier on, but like COVID's been the whole COVID pandemic. I mean, I've never travelled so little. I've only left the country like 4 or 5 times this year. And normally last year I was away for 10 months of the year, away from home, so I'm away a lot with Ninja and riding. And then this year I've spent so much time at home, and like being able to get out in the summer and come and ride with like everyone, and like go on these massive street rides like we did in London. We've been to like Bristol and everything, Portland, and it's been really nice. I haven't done that for years, literally years. I haven't had the opportunity.
I've noticed you've definitely been turning up to the scene a little bit more, but that does make sense. He's in the country, and the fact that he does so much driving. I mean, I know things like when we said goodbye in Italy last year, you're like, right, I'm just going to drive to Exeter now, 18 hours or something like that. I'll see you guys later. And you're just like, just drive back from Italy on my own, just casually, like it's a 20-minute drive. Like you do that so often.
Well, yeah, here's a funny story for you. I was working with Ninja in Germany for season 3. So we film in Karlsruhe, which is in the south of Germany. and then I'd forgotten that the British Championships was on, and I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to win another British champion title, and obviously you have to go to the competition to win. So
really?
I did a 12-hour shift at Ninja, and then I finished at what time? I finished like 10 o'clock at night. Got in the car in Karlsruhe. I drove to Charlie's house, in Cambridge, whatever. Rode the competition. Got back in the car. Literally finished. Did the podium. Got back in the car. Drove for 13 hours straight. Got back down to Karlsruhe the next morning. Went straight into set and did a 12-hour shift. So I didn't sleep for 3 days. I missed 2 nights of sleep. And I still managed to clean the semi-finals of Ninja Warrior in Germany.
See, if you actually got some sleep, you might have actually done even better. You might not have injured yourself. You might not have had to buy new ligaments off the black market. You wouldn't be selling kidneys or anything like that.
Dre, it's been
a link for those kidneys.
Yeah, we'll put those in the show notes, I think. Yeah,
those. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure as always chatting away with you, but this time we actually recorded it.
Dre, where can people find you? What's your main media outlet? You're on Instagram, right?
To be honest, Instagram, yeah. I mean, I looked at TikTok and I was like, I'm not attractive enough to be on TikTok, so.
And how
so yeah, like Instagram's the main thing. And I'm all over the Salt Rock website, so go and check out the Salt Rock website.
He's not attractive enough for Instagram. Just one more for some of the video viewers here, right? Just this beautiful one with his.
Come on,
look at that one. Oh, like a proper cheesy smile as well. He's got the comb over, mate. That looks legit. You being
classic skateboarder sort of style belt.
Yeah, I was just trying to. What? And for those listening, head over to the Instagram. I'll pop these on the post.
You really don't have to.
You know,
look like a serial killer.
The roasting of Andrei Burton. That was the part of the.
We didn't even talk about Steve's injury, did we?
That will be in the future one.
That's on the net. Yeah, we will, because I need to get that video from you. But mate, you haven't got
that, and I've got a really funny one of me as well. But anyway,
we've still. I know there'll be another one, mate. We've got plenty of others to.
All sorted. So, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode of the Shindig podcast with Andrei Burton. Go find him on all the socials. And yes, do follow us, the Shindig podcast. We are on YouTube, of course, your favourite podcast service of choice, as well as Instagram. Yeah. Thank you once again, and we'll see you again next week.
Yes, mate. Have a good day. Chloe, we love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.